It is when... Come on. Let's get this started up. It is Wednesday, my dudes, and time for an old man yapping. And with the stitches out of my thumb this week, kind of nasty, but it'll just scar up over time. So with the stitches out of my thumb and mostly everything healed, I can drink again. Woohoo! Not that it will really matter. I've gone over this material so much. It's like second nature. So, what I want to talk about today is something that I like to call undergrad syndrome. Because it's common to young people who are just entering university or who are about to enter university. Essentially, it's a series of 4 philosophies that they stack together in a particular way that makes it okay for them to be self-absorbed and titled dickholes. And the first stepping stone on that is Karl Marx. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I'm not a huge fan of Karl Marx, but the concepts that Marx advanced in the Communist Manifesto and in Das Kapital, these concepts were not wrong at the time. We know better now, but that was 150 years ago. There's been a lot of advances in the last 150 years. Just like, the patron saint of the capitalist community is Adam Smith from The Wealth of Nations. He wrote a book called On the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations in 1775 that was used as the foundation for a lot of America's economic foundation. The foundation for the foundation. That's it. That's the ticket. That works. Let's go with that. But because that was the late 18th century, there were a lot of cases where Adam Smith did not know what the fuck he was talking about. Because nobody knew what the fuck he was talking about. The stuff he needed to know to be right didn't exist yet. And similarly, a century later, along comes Karl Marx, and what he needed to know to correct his theories and his concepts also didn't exist yet. So both of them were wrong about a lot of shit. There's no deification of Adam Smith here. I'm a full-on capitalist. I'm a huge supporter of capitalism. I can explain that in depth some other time. And I'm not a fan of Marx, but it's because I know what's wrong with Marx. It's because I know what's wrong with what Marx said, and I know what's wrong with what Adam Smith said. And a lot of what Adam Smith said was wrong. And I will wholeheartedly admit a lot of that shit was wrong. But capitalism in and of itself, like socialism in and of itself, is not fundamentally wrong. It's just the primary problem with socialism is it doesn't scale. It can get to a certain size, and that's all the bigger it gets. But the core concept of socialism, for those who aren't aware of it, is from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. And that is a pretty fucking good deal when you're 16, 17 years old and you don't have any ability. That's a good deal. You get according to your needs, and you don't have to give shit because you have no ability. People glom onto that like a motherfucker, just immediately. And then, as time goes on, and they get a little bit older, and they learn a few things, they start to go, wait a minute. I'm starting to develop ability. And once they've developed ability, of course, they're going to have to deliver according to their ability. So this is where they like to turn to Friedrich Nietzsche. And Friedrich Nietzsche advanced the philosophy of nihilism. And the philosophy of nihilism isn't as bleak as people seem to think it is. Nihilism is not the idea that nothing matters and you could just do whatever the fuck. nihilism flies in the face of conventional, largely religious moral thinking of the time, namely that there's a meaning and purpose to life. Nihilism says, no, the fuck there is not. There's no meaning to life. There's no purpose to life. Nothing objective anyway. You can decide that you want to do something with your life. You can decide that you want to be something. You can pursue your goals in your life, but that's you. That is not assigned to you by the universe. That's not an obligation you have to society or to the world or to God or whatever the fuck. You choose what you do with your life, and there's no right or wrong to it. You have free will. You can make that decision. Well, that's great, because what that means is, when Marx says, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, you can go, it's my choice what to do with my ability, and I am going to smoke weed, eat Fruit Loops, and watch Scooby-Doo. I guess it's a pretty good deal if you're a loser, you know. But as time advances further, you get to the point where not only do you have some abilities that you're going, nope, I'm not going to use those on behalf of the community. Nope, not going to do that. Not going to use them on behalf of the community. But you get to a point where you have skills and you have abilities and talents. You have the education to do things, and you want to do the things. You can make things happen, and you want to make things happen because everybody wants to affect the world around them. Everybody wants to make a difference. Everybody wants to, do the things. And that's where you get into Ayn Rand and objectivism and rational self-interest. And basically what that means is, if you played BioShock, you know it, because Andrew Ryan is a transparently, barely disguised stand-in for Ayn Rand and objectivism. And when he gives those speeches about, is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow, to the fruits of his labor? Well, of course, if you do something or you make something, whatever comes out of what you did or what you made, that's yours. It belongs to you and you can keep it. That's your thing that belongs to you because you made it with your sweat and your labor and it's yours. You don't have to contribute it to society. You can keep it and it can be yours. And you don't have to give it to them. And therein lies the problem. Because on the one hand, you get to keep whatever you make with the sweat of your brow. You get to retain the fruit of your labor. But society is obligated to give you what you need. Why does society have an obligation when you don't? If you were not part of the society, then there would be nothing for your needs. Only the society is provided for, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. But that's within that community, within that society. In order to get what you need from society, have to be in the society. So why do you get to keep your shit and they are obligated to contribute it? Well, the obvious answer to this is they're not obligated to contribute it. They choose to contribute it because here we pull out postmodernism. Now, postmodernism is a fairly complex subject, and I know that, Jordan Peterson pulls it out all the time. It's postmodernism is the problem. Well, it's part of the problem. And I think Jordan Peterson spends a lot of time dealing with people who have undergrad disease, so he's got this postmodernist boogeyman running around in his head all the time. But the most important part of postmodernism that needs to be considered is cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is the idea that what you choose to do is not inherently better or worse than what somebody else chooses to do. So, for example, if you try to make it rain by looking for clouds and trying to call them over with your weird cloud whistle thing. And somebody else tries to make it rain by doing a dance. The dance is not more primitive than your stupid cloud whistle thing, and your stupid cloud whistle thing is not superior and more technologically advanced than the dance, because they're both stupid. Neither one of them is going to make it rain. But whichever one you choose to do, that particular part of your culture, you can't objectively rank those. The people who do a rain dance and the people who blow a cloud whistle, they're equivalent. The practice of blowing the cloud whistle works as often as it works, and the practice of doing the dance works as often as it works, and they work about as much as random chance. Go figure. But neither one of them is better or worse than the other. So when you choose to smoke weed and eat Fruit Loops and watch Scooby-Doo, and that's what you're going to do with your life, this is not worse than the guy who chooses to work like hell producing food for the rest of the community. So what he does is not better than what you do, and what you do is not worse than what he does, so you can't be compelled to do what he does. And he's not being compelled to do what he does either. He just chooses to do it for his own reasons, for his own benevolent, beneficent reasons. And as long as we're dreaming, I'd like a fucking pony, because that is not how people think, and that is not how people work. The reality is, once that guy who grows food for everybody figures out that no matter how hard he works and no matter how much he does, he's going to get the same thing out of it, he's not going to work as hard. It's natural. It's normal. That's the way that things work. It's the way that everybody thinks. It's the way that everything works. When he looks at you and he realizes you're doing absolutely jack shit, he's going to start making the case to everybody that maybe you don't get according to your needs. Maybe we don't give anything to you at all. You don't give anything to us. All the stuff that you make, you keep because you're a self-absorbed, entitled dickhole. So why don't we throw you out of the society? There's no good answer to this. Now, obviously, I'm a fan of capitalism, and I could explain why I think capitalism solves all of this, but it doesn't actually matter. Because what matters here is that when you put these four things together, you're a self-absorbed, entitled dickhole, and nobody fucking likes you. You can't do that. And I run into a lot of people that have this undergrad disease, and it's getting worse. And the reason I think it's getting worse is student loans. Because people get student loans to go to university, and they spend a couple of years at university, and then they're expected to get another student loan to cover the rest. And they can't. They can't get that second loan. So because they can't get that second loan, they never finish their degree. And instead of getting to junior and senior year, which is when you're exposed to something like, I don't know, an economics class, and you go, this shit doesn't work. You can't have a society like this. Dunbar's number precludes the operation of a socialist or communist society over about 600 to 1,000 people. That's like, there barely are communities that small in America. It's not going to work. It's not going to work in most of the civilized world. You can have a limited amount of socialism, but not all that much. Capitalism is the only thing that meaningfully scales. There's a lot wrong with it. It's kind of fucked up in a lot of ways, but it's the only thing that scales up without limit. It's the only thing that works roughly as well, no matter how many people you have engaging in it. The things that fuck capitalism up are corruption, fraud, and abuse. I've talked about that fairly extensively. And corruption, fraud, and abuse are present in every system. It's just that they're particularly capable of fucking everything up under capitalism. They still fuck things up under socialism. They still fuck things up under communism. But capitalism is especially vulnerable to these things because capitalism can conceal it. because you have free choice of what to do, there's no immediate difference visible when somebody makes a choice because they were lied to, or because they were threatened, or because they were bribed. So it's hard to detect the fraud, abuse, and corruption, and there's going to be more of it under capitalism because it's harder to find. Your government should still primarily occupy itself trying to reduce fraud, abuse, and corruption instead of engage in as much of it as they possibly can, like ours is doing right now. But regardless, as you get into those last 2 years of college and you start to really put the pieces together, you start to go, oh, this doesn't work at scale. This doesn't work in communities over a certain size. You can only have a certain amount of socialism. If you go beyond that amount, well, people start dying. Like, a lot of people start dying. And it's the same thing with capitalism. If you have too much capitalism, people start dying. We're probably going to see that fairly soon here in America, because the direction we're going, people are already suffering. A lot of people are suffering. We don't have a lot of people dying yet. We have some, mostly women who are pregnant. The maternal death rate has gone up fairly dramatically here in the U.S. That's not good. It's dropping everywhere else in the world. It's going up here. I don't like that one bit. And the solution proposed by our Republican jackass leaders is that people should just have more babies. More babies are dying. We're going to have more of them to replace the ones that die. And on top of that, we're going to have to start marrying the girls younger because the women are going to be dying in childbirth. So we got to do something about this child marriage. Also, the FDA is going to start not regulating baby formula. So babies are going to die. You're going to have more of them then. And we're going to remove safety regulations at work. So more people are going to die at work. We better relax those child labor laws. I mean, do we want the Industrial Revolution back? Because this is how you get the Industrial Revolution back, with fucking chimney sweeps and child labor and people dying when they go to work. All of which, incidentally, is what Marx was trying to fix. Marx was concerned primarily with the amount of mortality in factories of the early industrial age. His heart was very much in the right place. He didn't like seeing so many people dying, and he wanted fewer of those people to die. And the best way he could see to do that was to get rid of the fucking jerks in charge that were sending those people out to die. He's not a bad guy. He didn't want bad things. He wasn't trying to ruin anything. He wasn't trying to destroy anything. He's trying to help the people that he saw suffering. And that's like the most human thing ever. To help the people you see suffering. And we all get there at some point. And that's what really kills undergrad disease, is the moment when you realize that a lot of fucking people are suffering. And if you can do something about those people suffering, you should. There's a saying that was going around when I was in university, and that saying was, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative in your 30s, you have no brain. But liberal and conservative meant different things back then. I don't recognize modern conservatives. I never really stopped being liberal. Because at no point did I ever agree with the conservative perspective that it's okay to be a dickhole. I don't think it is. I don't think it is ever okay to be a dickhole. Except to somebody that's being a dickhole to you. And they have to do it first, you know? But anyway, I don't have any real solutions for this. It's just, if you've put that particular worldview together and you're sitting around and you're going, well, socialism, because then I don't have to do as much. Socialism fundamentally relied on the idea, if you actually read Marx, which a lot of people will tell you to do, if you actually fucking read it, socialism relies strongly on everybody working all the time. We kind of gloss over that part. Marx never really accounted for the disabled. He never accounted for just being tired or having other things to do. He didn't account for recreation or entertainment or a vacation. He didn't think about burnout. He didn't think about when or how you were going to raise a family, who was going to raise the children. I mean, Marx basically imagined that dad was going to work in the factory all day and mom was going to stay home and raise the kids. And it's funny that this assumption is exactly what the fucking pro-natalist conservative motherfuckers want. I swear to God, the Republican Party is basically a domestic terrorist organization at this point. We should just ban them from future elections. They're beyond help. They just really are. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell icon, all that happy horse shit. Okay, bye.